The alien ship moved silently through the cold darkness of space. It was far from Earth, watching and waiting. Inside the ship, Commander Zixthral sat in his command chair. He had done this job many times before. His people, the Vakreen, were good at finding new worlds to conquer. They had taken over 47 different star systems in the past 100 years. Today felt like any other day. Zixthral expected to find another weak civilization that would be easy to defeat. His sensors swept across the empty space looking for signs of life near the blue and green planet ahead. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," said his sensor operator. Her voice was calm but curious. "Show me what you found," Zixthral replied. A glowing image appeared in front of them. It showed many ships floating near the planet Earth. The ships looked old and simple to Zixthral. They used basic fusion engines and had weak shields, but there were so many of them. Dozens of warships all arranged in a defensive pattern around their home world. "These ships belong to humans," the operator continued. "They just learned how to travel faster than light. Our analysis says they are not very advanced. They should not be a threat to us." Zixthral leaned forward to study the human fleet more carefully. He had seen this before. When a weak species knew they were in danger, they gathered all their ships together. They thought it would protect them. It never did. Keep watching them quietly. Do not let them know we are here. I want to see what these humans can do before we tell the main fleet about them. What Zixthral did not know was that his quiet sensors had already been noticed. On the human flagship called Liberty, Captain John Hayes sat in the control room. He watched as his crew detected the alien ship. "Captain, we have an unknown contact," said Lieutenant Karen Foster at the tactical station. "Distance is 8 million kilometers. They are scanning us with some kind of energy beam." John stood up from his chair. His face showed no fear, even though his heart was beating fast. He had been in the Navy for 30 years before joining the Earth Defense Force. He knew that showing fear would make his crew afraid too. "How long have they been watching us?" John asked. 17 minutes, sir. They appeared at the edge of our sensor range and have not moved since then." "Are they alone?" Karen checked her instruments carefully. "Yes, sir. We only see one ship. It is about the size of a small warship." John nodded slowly. This was the moment everyone on Earth had been preparing for. 8 years ago, a broken alien machine had crashed on Mars. Human scientists studied it and learned that Earth was not alone in the universe. They learned that other species existed, and many of them were dangerous. Since then, Earth had been building ships and training crews for this exact moment. "Sound the alarm. All ships should go to battle stations, but do not fire any weapons. I do not want to start a war by accident." Loud alarms rang out across all 73 human warships. On the destroyer Valiant, Commander Lisa Brown shouted orders to her weapons teams. On the carrier Roosevelt, Captain Greg Murphy launched his fighter squadrons. Thousands of men and women prepared for the possibility of fighting their first battle against aliens. Back on the Liberty, John watched the alien vessel carefully. The humans had one big secret that no other species knew about. When they studied the crashed alien machine on Mars, they found amazing technology. It was hundreds of years more advanced than anything humans had built. The scientists barely understood how it worked, but they managed to copy some of it and put it into Earth's newest ships. "Captain, the alien ship is scanning us more intensely now. They are using their strongest sensors," Karen reported. "Let them look," John said quietly. "Helm, turn our ship to face them. Do it slowly and carefully." The huge Liberty began to turn. John smiled a little. He wanted the aliens to see what they expected to see, a fleet of basic warships with simple weapons. He wanted them to think humans were weak and easy to defeat. That mistake would cost them dearly. On the Vakreen scout ship, Zixthral watched as the human flagship turned toward him. It looked like a challenge, or maybe just a defensive move. Either way, it proved what he already believed. These humans were aggressive but completely outmatched. Prepare to jump back to the main fleet. I have seen enough. The humans will make good slaves once we break their spirit. His operator began working on the calculations needed to jump across space. "Jump is ready, Commander. We can leave whenever you want." Zixthral took one last look at the human fleet. In 3 days, the full Vakreen armada would arrive with hundreds of warships. This star system would fall just like all the others before it. He almost felt sorry for the humans. Almost. Begin the jump. The scout ship's power core started to spin faster. It began folding space and time, preparing to leap across many light years in an instant. But before it could complete the jump, something impossible happened. Every system on the ship shut down completely. The lights went out. The engines stopped. Even the backup power failed. On the bridge, red emergency lights flickered on, casting strange shadows everywhere. "Report," Zixthrall shouted. For the first time in 30 years of service, he felt real fear. His operator worked frantically at the emergency controls. She looked confused and scared. "I do not know what happened, Commander. All our main systems are dead. The power generation has stopped. Even our backup cores are not working. It is like something drained all our energy at once. That cannot be possible. Our systems have 3 different backups." "I know, Commander, but the diagnostics do not lie. We are running on emergency batteries only, and they are running out fast." Zixthrall felt a cold feeling spread through his body. He turned to look at the human fleet through the window. Now he saw them with new understanding. The humans did this somehow, but how? Their technology is supposed to be primitive. They should not be able to affect our systems from this far away. The commander's forearms trembled slightly. Unless we were wrong about them, unless everything we saw was a lie, he was right to be afraid. On the Liberty, John watched his screen with satisfaction as the alien vessel went dark. "The pulse worked perfectly, Captain," Karen said. "The target ship is completely disabled. All their systems have shut down except for minimal emergency power." "Good. Now activate the containment field. I do not want them going anywhere." The technology from the Mars probe included something the human engineers called a quantum resonance disruptor. It created a chain reaction that shut down advanced alien power systems. The aliens used exotic matter in their engines, and the disruptor made that exotic matter unstable. Every advanced system on their ship had failed at once. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They assumed that because human ships looked simple, humans were simple too. They never considered that a species might hide their real capabilities until the perfect moment. "Sir, the alien vessel is trying to restart its systems," Karen reported. "They are not having any success. They will not succeed," John replied. "The containment field will block any exotic matter reactions within 10 million kilometers. That ship is not going anywhere unless we allow it." He touched his command console. "Prepare a boarding team. Full combat gear and science support. I want to know who these visitors are and why they came here." In the ship's hangar bay, Sergeant Danny Cooper checked his weapon for the 3rd time. The rifle used advanced energy technology, another gift from the Mars probe. It could punch through almost any armor. Around him, 20 other Marines got ready for the mission. "Listen carefully," Danny called out. "This is first contact, but these aliens were clearly spying on us. We go in ready for anything. You can fire if threatened, but we need some of them alive for questioning. Understand?" "Yes, Sergeant," everyone shouted back. The boarding craft launched from the Liberty and flew toward the disabled alien ship. Inside, Danny and his team waited tensely. They were about to become the first humans to step onto an alien spacecraft. They were about to meet another intelligent species face to face. On the dead Vakreen ship, Commander Zixthrall watched the human craft approach. His crew had managed to restore some power, but the main drives would not work. Their weapons had only 20% power, not nearly enough to fight off boarders. "Commander, we could try to fight them," his tactical officer suggested, though he did not sound confident. "No," Zixthrall said quietly. "We have already lost. Fighting now would only get us killed. Tell the crew to stand down and not resist. We need to survive so we can warn the Empire about what these humans can really do." The human boarding craft attached itself to the side of the alien ship with a magnetic seal. Inside, Sergeant Danny Cooper and his team got into position. They pointed their weapons at the spot where they would cut through the hull. 30 seconds, the breacher announced. "This hull is made of some kind of crystal material. It is tough, but we can cut through it." The cutting torch finished its work, and a circular piece of metal fell inward with a loud clang. Danny was the first one through the hole. His weapon's targeting laser cut through the smoke. The corridor on the other side was empty and dark, lit only by dim red emergency lights. "Clear. First team, follow me. Second team, guard the entry point." They moved through the alien ship carefully. The walls and floors were curved in strange ways that made human eyes hurt to look at. Everything was built at odd angles, but the basic layout made sense. Power systems in the back, crew quarters in the middle, command center in the front. They found their first alien at a corner junction. The creature stood almost 2 meters tall. It had 4 arms and looked somewhat like an insect. its large compound eyes locked onto the approaching Marines. Slowly, it raised all four hands up in what Danny hoped was a sign of surrender. "Contact! Non-hostile posture!" Danny called out. "Amy, get up here. Tell me if this thing is dangerous." Lieutenant Amy Wright pushed forward with her scanner already running. "Fascinating. It has an exoskeleton, multiple joints, and 4 arms, but still has bilateral symmetry. Its heart rate is high, but it does not seem to be in immediate danger. Can it understand us?" "Only one way to find out." Amy stepped forward carefully, making herself look smaller and less threatening. She pointed to herself. "Human." Then she pointed to the alien. "You?" The alien's mouth parts clicked together in a complex pattern. A small device on its chest lit up and began speaking in English. "Vakreen, I am Zixthral, commander of this vessel. You have violated several interstellar laws by attacking a diplomatic scout mission." Danny almost laughed out loud. "Diplomatic? You were scanning our fleet with active sensors and getting ready to jump away. Where I come from, that is called spying, and it is definitely not diplomatic." Zixthral's mouth clicked again, this time in what might have been acceptance of defeat. "Very well. What do you intend to do with us?" "That depends," Danny said. "Are more of you coming?" The alien commander hesitated. Danny could see the moment when he decided to tell the truth. "Yes. The Vakreen Armada will arrive in 3 of your days. 14 capital ships, 67 cruisers, and over 200 support vessels. They are coming to conquer this system and enslave your species." Amy's face went pale. "Sergeant, we need to get this information back to the fleet right now." But Danny was watching Zixthral's face carefully. At least he was trying to read what he thought might be an expression on that alien face. "There is something you are not telling us. What is it?" The Vakreen commander's forearms shook slightly. "Your weapon. The thing you used to disable us. If you can use it against the Armada, they will not stand a chance. Every ship will be shut down at the same time. And that scares you because the Vakreen are not the only dangerous species in this galaxy, Sergeant. We have enemies who would love to see us weakened. If word spreads that a primitive species defeated our Armada, others will come. And some of them are much worse than the Vakreen." Danny felt the weight of those words. He realized that humanity's first contact was about to become much more complicated. They were not just facing one alien threat. They were about to announce their presence to an entire galaxy full of dangerous species. "We need to go," Danny said. "Amy, bring the commander with us. Captain Hayes will want to hear this directly." Back on the Liberty, Captain John Hayes stood in the briefing room. He was talking to holographic images of Earth's military leaders through a video link. Admiral Susan Clark looked tired even though it was early morning in Geneva. "Let me make sure I understand correctly, Captain," Admiral Clark said. Her voice carried the burden of impossible choices. "We have 3 days before an alien armada arrives to invade our system. We have technology that can disable their entire fleet, but using it will make us a target for every hostile species in the galaxy." "That is correct, Admiral," John confirmed. "According to Commander Zixthral, there are at least a dozen major powers in this area of space. Most of them believe in might makes right. If we defeat the Vakreen too easily, we will be seen as either a threat to destroy or a prize to capture." General Paul Stevens leaned forward. "What do you recommend, Captain?" John had been thinking about this question since Danny's team came back from the alien ship. "We need to win, but we need to win in a way that makes other species think twice before attacking us. We cannot appear too weak or too strong." "A delicate balance," Admiral Clark observed. "How do you propose we achieve that?" "We use the quantum resonance disruptor, but not at full power. We disable enough of their fleet to force them to surrender, but we let them keep enough ships working to retreat. We show that we are strong enough to defend ourselves, but controlled enough not to be genocidal. And if they do not surrender, if they fight until all their ships are destroyed, then we show them why humanity never gives up, Admiral. We have been preparing for this fight for 8 years. Our crews are trained, our weapons are tested, and our determination is absolute. If the Vakreen want a war of attrition, we will give them one they will remember forever." Admiral Clark looked at General Stevens. After a moment, she nodded. Very well, Captain. You have permission to engage the Vakreen fleet as you see fit. But Hayes, do not start an interstellar war we cannot win. Understood, Admiral. The hologram disappeared. John was alone with his thoughts again. 3 days to prepare for humanity's first major space battle. 3 days to make sure they survived. He pressed his communicator. All senior staff, report to the briefing room immediately. We have work to do. 20 minutes later, his command staff gathered around the tactical table. The holographic display showed the entire star system in miniature. Red lines showed where the enemy would probably appear. All right, everyone. Here's what we know, John began. The Vakreen Armada will come out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system in 72 hours. Standard military practice suggests they will spend 6 to 8 hours accelerating toward Earth while scanning the system. That gives us a small window to hit them before they reach our planet. Commander Lisa Brown from the Valiant raised her hand. Captain, have we questioned the alien commander more? Do we know how they usually fight? Lieutenant Wright and our intelligence team have been talking to Zixthral for the past 6 hours. Karen, tell them what we learned. Lieutenant Karen, Foster brought up a new display showing different types of Vakreen ships. The Vakreen fight with overwhelming numbers and superior technology. They rely on having better shields and weapons to crush any resistance before it can organize effectively. Their shields are very strong but use a lot of energy. Their weapons are plasma-based with an effective range of about 2 million kilometers. They usually advance in a wall formation to maximize overlapping fields of fire. Captain Greg Murphy from the carrier Roosevelt studied the display carefully. What about their fighters and small attack craft? Limited, Karen answered. The Vakreen prefer big ship-to-big ship combat. They do have small craft for boarding enemy ships and point defense, but nothing like our fighter wings. That gives us an advantage, Greg noted. Our pilots have been training for 8 years. They will fly circles around anything the Vakreen can put in space. John nodded in agreement. That is what I am counting on. Here is the plan. We will split the fleet into 3 groups. Alpha Group, under my command, will hold position near Earth as the anvil. Beta Group, Lisa, you will command the destroyers, and frigates in a flanking position behind the 3rd moon. Gamma Group, Greg, your carriers and escorts will stay in reserve to reinforce either formation as needed. He changed the display to show the planned positions and expected enemy movements. When the Vakreen enter the system, we let them form up into their wall formation and begin their advance. Once they pass the outer planets and commit to their attack, we hit them with the resonance disruptor at 30% power. Only 30%? Lisa questioned. Sir, at full power we could disable their entire fleet in one shot. Exactly. And that would terrify every species watching this battle. At 30%, we will disable their capital ships and some of their cruisers. The rest will still be able to fight, but will be disorganized. That is when Beta Group hits their flank and forces them to split their attention. Their formation will collapse and we can destroy them piece by piece. The plan received nods of approval around the table. It was aggressive but measured, powerful but not overwhelming. If it worked, humanity would win its first space battle, while establishing themselves as dangerous but reasonable. One more thing, John added. We are going to broadcast this entire battle on open channels. I want every alien species within 50 light-years to see exactly what happens when you threaten humanity. We are done hiding in the dark. For the next 72 hours, the fleet prepared. Engineers checked every system 3 times. Weapons crews ran endless drills. In the Liberty's holding cell, Commander Zixthral looked out through a small window at the human ships moving into position. Lieutenant Amy Wright sat across from him asking more questions for her reports. You seem troubled. Commander, she said, I am watching my species make a terrible mistake. Zixthral replied through his translator, and I cannot do anything to stop it. You could help us. Give us tactical information. Help us end this battle with fewer deaths on both sides. The Vakreen commander's forearms moved in complex patterns that Amy was learning meant emotional distress. I have already betrayed my people by telling you about the Armada. I will not make it worse by helping you kill them. Even though they came here to enslave us? War is war, Lieutenant. Your people would do the same if you were in our position. The strong survive and the weak die. That is how the galaxy works. Amy leaned back in her chair. Maybe that is why we are going to win, Commander. We do not think like that. Humans fight hardest when we are protecting something, not when we are trying to conquer. Your people are coming to take our freedom. We are fighting for our survival. There is a big difference. Zix Thrall's mouth parts clicked in what might have been laughter. Those are nice words, Lieutenant. But nice words rarely survive real battle. When the Armada arrives and you see the full power of the Vakreen Empire, your courage will fail. It always does. I guess we will see, Amy said quietly. I guess we will see. The countdown continued. 60 hours left, then 48 hours, then 24. On every human ship, crews recorded goodbye messages to their families on Earth. They made their peace with the possibility of death. They prepared themselves mentally for what was coming. Captain John Hayes stood at the Liberty's observation window, watching Earth slowly rotate below. Somewhere down there was his daughter Kate, now 26 years old and working as a doctor in Chicago. He had sent her a message 12 hours ago telling her he loved her and was proud of her. He hoped he would survive to send another message. Beautiful, is it not? Karen said, joining him at the window. Sometimes I forget why we are doing this. Then I look down there and remember. 8 billion people who do not even know they are about to be in a war. They know, John said. The government has been preparing them for 8 years. Civil defense drills, underground shelters, evacuation plans. They know something is coming. They just do not know it is today. Do you think we can win, Captain? John thought carefully about the question. I think we have advantages they do not know about and disadvantages we do not fully understand. I think our people are brave and skilled and desperate, and I think sometimes that is enough. And if it is not enough, then we die fighting, Lieutenant, and we make absolutely certain they remember the name humanity for 1,000 years. A loud alarm rang through the ship. Karen's communicator buzzed urgently. She checked it, and her face went pale. Captain, long-range sensors have detected multiple faster-than-light signatures at the edge of the system. It is them. The Vakreen have arrived early. The Vakreen Armada appeared at the edge of the solar system in a massive display of warped space and exotic radiation. 14 huge capital ships, each one 3 kilometers long and covered with weapon ports, led the formation. Around them, 67 cruisers and over 200 smaller vessels formed into their traditional wall formation. Fleet Commander Korvalax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the unrelenting Dominion. He looked at the tactical display with satisfaction. This would be his 43rd conquest. He did not expect it to be any harder than the previous 42. Status report, he commanded. His voice carried the authority of centuries of military service. All vessels successfully transitioned to normal space, Fleet Commander. His operations officer replied. Beginning full system scan now. We confirm the presence of the human homeworld in their defensive fleet. How many ships do they have? 73 contacts of various sizes. They are concentrated near the 4th planet. They appear to be in a defensive formation. Korvalax's mouth parts clicked in amusement. Fools. They think their primitive vessels can stand against the Empire. Begin the advance. Standard assault speed. I want to be in weapons range of their homeworld in 6 hours. The Armada began moving toward Earth, their engines flaring blue-white against the darkness. On paper, it should have been a short and one-sided battle. The Vakreen had better shields, better weapons, and more experience. They outnumbered the human fleet 3-1 in total ships and even more in total firepower. But they did not know about the quantum resonance disruptor, and they did not know about human determination. On the Liberty, John watched the enemy fleet approach with careful patience. Every instinct told him to attack immediately, to hit them hard and fast before they could organize. But he held back, waiting for the perfect moment. Enemy fleet has crossed the orbit of the 7th planet, Karen reported. Speed is steady at 0.03 light speed. They are maintaining their wall formation. How long until they reach disruptor range? At current speed, 93 minutes, Captain. John nodded. All ships, maintain communication silence and hold your positions. Make no hostile moves. Let them think we are frozen with fear. It was a gamble. The Vakreen might see the humans doing nothing as a chance to strike first, but John was counting on their arrogance, their certainty that this battle was already won. On the unrelenting Dominion, Korvalax studied the human fleet with growing confusion. Why are they not maneuvering? Why are they not launching their fighters or moving to intercept us? Unknown, Fleet Commander. Their energy signatures suggest all vessels are at full power, but they are taking no action. Perhaps they want to surrender, suggested the tactical officer. Without even trying to communicate? That seems unlikely. Korvalak zoomed in on the human flagship. What happened to Commander Zixthral's scout ship? Did we receive his report? Negative, Fleet Commander. The scout ship went silent 72 hours ago. We have been unable to make contact. A small warning feeling appeared in Korvalak's mind. A quiet enemy. A missing scout ship. It could mean nothing, or it could mean everything. Reduce speed by half. Send screening elements forward to check for traps. And someone find out what happened to that scout ship. The Vakrine formation adjusted. Their advance slowed as smaller vessels moved ahead to look for dangers. It gave John an extra 30 minutes to prepare. Enemy fleet has reduced speed, Karen announced. Screening elements are pushing forward. They are getting cautious, Captain. Good. That means they are thinking, and thinking enemies make mistakes. How long until Beta Group is in position? 18 minutes. Commander Brown reports her ships are maintaining stealth. The Vakrine have not detected them yet. John looked at the tactical display on his command chair. The enemy was still an hour from the best disruptor range, but the screening vessels would cross into range in just over 30 minutes. That was close enough. Pass the word to all ships. Battle stations. Prepare to fire on my command. Throughout the fleet, the last peaceful moments ended. Crews put on their combat suits and sealed the compartments. They armed their weapons and said silent prayers. On the Roosevelt, Greg's pilots climbed into their fighters with all systems checked and ready. On the Valiant, Lisa's weapons crews loaded ammunition into railguns and charged up particle beam weapons. The Vakrine screening force, 15 cruiser-sized vessels, entered disruptor range. John waited, counting down the seconds in his head, watching the range numbers decrease on his display. Captain, the lead enemy vessel is charging its weapons, Karen said urgently. They are targeting our forward ships, and let them. Hold your fire. The Vakrine cruiser fired first. A brilliant beam of plasma shot across 3 million kilometers of space. It hit the destroyer Guardian's shields and dispersed in a flash of bright energy. It was a warning shot, a test of human defenses. Guardian reports shields held at 87%, Karen said. No damage to the ship. Good. Now let us show them what we can do. John leaned forward in his chair. All ships, execute attack plan Delta. Fire. The Liberty and 6 other heavy cruisers fired the quantum resonance disruptor simultaneously. 7 invisible waves of exotic radiation washed over the Vakrine formation like a tidal wave. The effect was immediate and devastating. The 14 capital ships went completely dark, their power cores collapsing in cascading failures. 31 of the 67 cruisers suffered the same fate. The remaining vessels staggered as their systems went haywire. Shields dropped and weapons cycled offline before emergency systems kicked in. On the unrelenting Dominion, Korvalak experienced every commander's worst nightmare. Total helplessness. His ship, his pride, his power, all of it was gone in a single instant. Report. He roared into the darkness, his voice competing with alarm sirens. All primary systems are offline. We only have backup power. Whatever the humans hit us with affected every ship with an advanced exotic matter core. That should be impossible. Apparently not, Fleet Commander. In the confusion and panic, Beta Group struck like a knife. 15 destroyers and frigates appeared from behind the moon, all weapons firing at maximum rate. Missiles filled space, each one carrying a fusion warhead. Railgun projectiles moving at incredible speeds. All fighters, launch now, Captain Greg Murphy ordered from the Roosevelt. Execute attack plan Charlie. Hit them hard and fast. 200 human fighters, each one small but packed with powerful weapons and engines, screamed toward the enemy fleet. They moved with precision that came from years of training. They weaved through defensive fire and struck at weak points on Vakrine hulls. Lieutenant Ryan Cole led the first wave. His fighter's display showed dozens of targets ahead. Gold Squadron, follow me. We are going for the cruiser at bearing 185. Hit the engine section and get out fast. His squadron, 12 fighters moving as one unit, dove toward their target. Anti-fighter lasers tried to track them, but human reflexes and computer-assisted flying made them nearly impossible to hit. Ryan's fighter shook as he released his missiles. They struck the Vakrine cruiser's engine section in rapid succession. The cruiser's drive exploded in a brilliant flash. The ship began tumbling end over end, dead in space. Splash 1 cruiser. Ryan called out. Gold Squadron, regroup and find new targets. The battle spread across millions of kilometers of space. It was like a deadly three-dimensional chess game played at impossible speeds. John directed the human fleet with the skill of a master conductor. Each ship played its part in a lethal symphony of destruction, but the Vakreen were not defeated yet. Fleet Commander Korvalax, working from emergency battery power, managed to establish a laser communication link with the parts of his fleet that still worked. All functional vessels rally to my position, form a defensive sphere and focus all fire on the human heavy ships. If we can destroy their flagship, their fleet will fall apart. 36 Vakreen ships, the survivors of the disruptor pulse, began to regroup. Their shields came back to full strength. Their weapon systems returned to full power. The humans had struck a devastating first blow, but the battle was far from finished. Captain, enemy units are reforming, Karen warned. They are targeting us specifically. I am reading massive power buildup in their weapon systems. I see it. Helm, evasive pattern Delta. All ships, give us covering fire. Do not let them get a clean shot at us. The Liberty lurched violently as her engines fired at maximum power. The massive ship began a corkscrew maneuver designed to throw off enemy targeting. Around her, the rest of Alpha Group poured fire into the approaching Vakreen vessels. It was not enough. 6 Vakreen cruisers fired at the same time. Their plasma cannons unleashed energy equivalent to small suns. The beams converged on the Liberty's position. Even though the ship was moving, some of the shots connected. Shields at 40%. Hull breach on decks 7 through 9. Casualty reports are coming in. Karen shouted over the noise of alarms. John gripped his chair as the ship shook violently around him. Damage control teams, seal those breaches immediately. Karen, return fire with everything we have. If they want to trade shots, we will show them what human weapons can do. The Liberty's main guns, massive rail guns that fired meter-long projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, fired with thunderous force. 3 Vakreen cruisers staggered under the impacts. Their shields failed. Their hulls ruptured and broke apart, but more enemy ships were joining the fight. The humans were starting to take serious losses. The destroyer Phoenix exploded under concentrated fire. Her crew of 200 died instantly. The frigate Dauntless took critical damage to her engines and began tumbling out of control. This was the moment John had been preparing for. The moment when victory was not certain. When fear threatened to overcome training. When humanity's future hung in the balance by a thread. All ships, this is Captain Hayes, he broadcast on the fleet channel. His voice was steady and strong. I know it looks bad right now. I know we are hurt. But look at what we have accomplished. We have crippled half their fleet. We have proven that humans can stand against the galaxy's predators and win. Now we finish this. All units converge on the enemy formation. Show them what humans do when you threaten our home. The human fleet surged forward as one. What had started as a careful defensive battle transformed into a furious close-range brawl. Ships from both sides closed to point-blank range and traded devastating fire. Commander Lisa Brown's destroyer group hit the Vakreen right flank like a hammer. All weapons, continuous fire. Do not give them a second to breathe. Her ships poured missiles and railgun rounds into the enemy formation without pause. On the Roosevelt, Greg coordinated his fighter squadrons with deadly efficiency. All wings, priority targets are the disabled capital ships. Hit their power cores before they can restart their systems. The fighters swarmed over the helpless Vakreen flagships. It was brutal work, attacking disabled enemies. But John had no intention of giving them a chance to recover and rejoin the fight. Lieutenant Ryan Cole led his squadron on another attack run. This time their target was one of the massive capital ships floating dead in space. Gold Squadron, focus fire on the power generation section. Make every shot count. Their weapons chattered as they strafed the enormous vessel. Explosions blossomed along its hull as critical systems took damage. The capital ship would never fight again. Back on the unrelenting Dominion, Fleet Commander Korvalax watched his fleet die around him. In 30 years of conquest, he had never experienced defeat. He had never understood what it felt like to be the prey instead of the hunter. Now, as human weapons tore through his ships, he finally understood the terror he had inflicted on dozens of other species. His hands trembled as he gave the order he never thought he would give. All surviving vessels, emergency jump to Rally Point Sigma. Retreat, retreat now! The order spread through what remained of the Vakreen fleet. Ships broke off from combat as their faster-than-light drives spun up for emergency jumps. Some made it to safety. Others died trying, caught by human fire before they could escape. Of the 281 vessels that had entered the system with such confidence, only 93 limped away into faster-than-light space. As the last Vacrine ship vanished in a flash of distorted spacetime, a profound silence fell over the battlefield. The human fleet hung in space, battered and bloodied but victorious. They had lost 11 ships completely destroyed and taken heavy damage to 24 more. Nearly 3,000 men and women would never return home to their families. But Earth was safe. Humanity had won its first interstellar war against impossible odds. "Status report," John said quietly. The adrenaline was finally fading, leaving him exhausted to his bones. Karen worked her console with shaking hands. "All enemy vessels have withdrawn from the system. We are detecting no hostile contacts anywhere. Sir, we won. We actually won." A cheer erupted across the bridge. It spread through the ship and then through the entire fleet as crews realized they had survived. They had fought aliens with technology centuries more advanced than their own, and emerged victorious against all expectations. John allowed himself a small smile, but he knew this was just the beginning of something much larger. "Signal all ships. Begin search and rescue operations immediately. I want every survivor recovered, both ours and theirs, and someone open a communication channel to Earth. Tell them their defenders are coming home." In the damaged sections of the Liberty, medical teams worked frantically to save the wounded. Dr. Kate Hayes, who had been temporarily assigned to the ship just days before the battle, moved from patient to patient with calm efficiency. "I need more plasma here," she called out. "This one has internal bleeding." A nurse rushed over with supplies. Together they stabilized the injured crewman and moved to the next casualty. Kate had not known her father was commanding this battle until after it started. Now she understood why he had seemed so distant in their last conversation. He had been carrying the weight of humanity's survival on his shoulders. 20 hours later, after all the wounded had been treated and the debris field searched for survivors, John stood alone in his quarters. A holographic image of Admiral Susan Clark appeared before him. "Congratulations, Captain," the Admiral said, though her face showed concern more than celebration. "You have saved Earth and proven that humanity can defend itself. But you have also announced our presence to every species monitoring this region of space. Fleet Command has been receiving first contact requests from 17 different alien civilizations since the battle ended." 17? That was very fast. They were watching, John. Some through passive long-range sensors, others through automated observation probes. Word is spreading throughout the galaxy that a new species has entered the galactic community and defeated a Vacrine armada in its first major engagement. What has been their reaction? Admiral Clark's expression softened slightly but remained serious. Mixed. Some want to establish diplomatic relations and open trade. Others are threatening to finish what the Vacrine started. A few have expressed interest in forming an alliance with us, and one message was particularly interesting. It came from a species called the Thren Collective. They claim the technology you used, the quantum disruptor, was stolen from them several thousand years ago. They want to meet with you personally. John felt a chill run down his spine. The Mars probe. If it had originally belonged to these Thren, that created serious complications. "What are my orders, Admiral?" Captain John Hayes stood at his window looking at Earth below. The planet turned slowly, peaceful and beautiful. Somewhere down there, his daughter Kate was probably still working in the medical bay, treating the last of the wounded. She had saved dozens of lives during and after the battle. John felt proud of her beyond words. A soft knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Lieutenant Amy Wright entered, looking tired but satisfied. "Captain, I thought you should know. Commander Zix Thrall has asked to speak with you personally." "What does he want?" "He says he has information about what happens next. About how the Vacrine Empire will respond to this defeat." John considered refusing. The Vacrine commander was a prisoner of war, after all. Anything he said would probably serve his own interests. But something in Amy's expression suggested this was important. "All right, bring him to the observation lounge in 30 minutes. And Amy, stay in the room with us. I want a witness to whatever he tells me." 30 minutes later, John stood at the observation lounge window, watching fighters return to their carriers. The door opened and Commander Zixithral entered, escorted by 2 armed Marines. The alien moved stiffly. His forearms showed clear signs of exhaustion. Amy had reported that Vacrine bodies did not handle stress well, and the past few days had been extremely stressful for him. "Captain Hayes," Zixithral said through his translator device. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. What do you want, Commander? To give you a warning, and perhaps if you will allow it some advice. John turned to face him directly. I am listening. Zixthral's mouth parts clicked in what might have been resignation or acceptance. The Vakrine Empire will not forgive this defeat. Fleet Commander Korvelek survived and escaped. He will make his report to the Empire. They will send a much larger fleet next time, perhaps 5 or 6 times bigger than the first one. They will come prepared for your quantum weapon. We will be ready for them when they come. Will you really? The alien's compound eyes fixed on John with an unreadable expression. Captain, you won this battle through surprise and superior technology. But war is not only about technology. It is about resources, supply lines, and endurance. The Empire has thousands of ships and millions of warriors. They have industrial capacity beyond anything you can imagine. You have 73 ships minus the ones you lost and only 1 planet. How long can you sustain a war of attrition against that? John felt the weight of those words settle on him. It was the question that had kept him awake at night for the past 8 years. Earth had won this battle, but could they win a long war? So what is your advice, Commander? Should we surrender now and save ourselves the trouble of fighting? No. Zixthral's mouth parts clicked with something that might have been respect. You humans have proven you are not prey animals. But you need allies, Captain. The galaxy is full of species who hate the Vakrine Empire and would love to see them weakened. Your victory today has shown that defeating them is possible. Use that. Build a coalition of allies, because if you try to stand alone against the Empire, you will eventually fall no matter how brave or clever you are. John studied the alien carefully, trying to understand his real motivations. Why are you telling me this? You are a Vakrine officer. This is treason against your own people. I am also a realist, Captain. I have seen what the Empire does to species they conquer. I have participated in it myself. And I have watched you and your crew these past days. You show mercy to defeated enemies. You risk your own lives to save others, even aliens. You fight for principles and ideals, not just for conquest and survival. Perhaps it is time the galaxy had a different kind of dominant power. The room fell silent as John absorbed those words. Finally, he nodded slowly. Thank you, Commander. I will take your advice seriously and share it with my superiors. That is all I ask. Zixthral turned to leave but paused at the door. One more thing, Captain. The Thren Collective. The species that contacted you about the technology you found on Mars. Be very careful with them. They are not as benevolent and peaceful as they want you to believe. After the alien was escorted away, Amy approached John at the window. Do you believe him, Captain? I do not know for certain. But he is right about one thing. We cannot fight the entire galaxy alone. John pulled out his communicator. Get me a secure channel to Admiral Clark immediately. I need to recommend that we start reaching out to potential allies as soon as possible. If the Vakrine are coming back stronger, we need to be ready with more than just our own fleet. Over the following weeks and months, humanity took its first careful steps onto the galactic stage as a recognized power. Diplomatic missions were sent to a dozen different alien species. Trade agreements were negotiated cautiously. Technology was shared carefully with potential allies. Military alliances were explored and evaluated. Some species welcomed humanity with open arms, seeing them as potential allies against the Vakrine Empire. Others watched and waited to see what humans would do next. A few openly declared their intention to test Earth's defenses when they felt the time was right. But humanity had learned a crucial lesson in that first battle. They were not alone in the universe, and they were not helpless victims. When the Vakrine or anyone else returned, they would find not a primitive species hiding on one planet, but a rising galactic power with allies, advanced technology, and an unbreakable determination to survive and thrive. On Earth, monuments were built to honor those who died in the battle. The names of the 11 destroyed ships were carved into memorials in dozens of cities around the world. The destroyer Phoenix became a symbol of sacrifice. The families of the nearly 3,000 who gave their lives received their nation's highest honors and deepest gratitude. In classrooms around Earth, children learned about the day humanity looked into the darkness between the stars and refused to surrender. They learned about Captain John Hayes and his crew. They learned about the young pilots like Lieutenant Ryan Cole, who flew into danger without hesitation. They learned that courage and determination could overcome even the most impossible odds. Captain John Hayes stood at a memorial in Washington, D.C., with his daughter Kate beside him. The black granite wall bore the names of every person who had died in the battle, organized by ship and rank. Fresh flowers lay at the base, placed there by families and strangers alike. They gave everything they had, Kate said softly, her voice thick with emotion. What do we give back to honor their memory? We live, John replied, his own voice rough. We build a future worth their sacrifice. We make sure that humanity not only survives but flourishes among the stars. We prove that their deaths meant something real and lasting. He looked up at the sky, where the Liberty and the rest of the rebuilt fleet maintained their defensive positions in orbit. They had won one battle, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning its first chapter. Somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, the Vakrine Empire was preparing its response and planning its revenge. But Earth would be ready and waiting. They had faced the predators of the galaxy and not only survived, but won. Whatever challenges came next, humanity would face them standing tall with weapons ready and the memory of their fallen heroes giving them strength and resolve. New alien species made contact every week. Some offered friendship and trade. Others offered warnings about dangers humanity did not yet understand. The Thren Collective finally sent representatives to Earth, and their meeting with human leaders was tense and complicated. They wanted their technology back, but they also recognized that humanity had used it to achieve something remarkable. Negotiations continued for months. Eventually, an agreement was reached. The Thren would share more of their advanced technology with humanity, in exchange for Earth joining a defensive alliance against the Vakrine Empire and other aggressive species. It was not a perfect deal, but it gave humanity access to knowledge and tools they desperately needed. Lieutenant Amy Wright became Earth's chief xenobiologist and cultural liaison. She worked tirelessly to help humans understand the dozens of alien species they were now in contact with. She learned their languages, studied their customs, and helped prevent countless misunderstandings that could have led to conflict. Commander Lisa Brown was promoted and given command of a new battle group specifically designed for rapid response to threats anywhere in the solar system. Her aggressive tactics during the first battle had proven their worth, and Earth needed more commanders with her skills. Captain Greg Murphy became the head of Earth's fighter pilot training program. Thousands of young men and women wanted to follow in the footsteps of heroes like Ryan Cole. Greg made sure they were trained to the highest standards, knowing that future battles would require even more skill and courage. Sergeant Danny Cooper led the formation of humanity's first xeno-warfare unit, specially trained to board and capture alien vessels. His team's successful capture of Commander Zix Thrall's scout ship had proven the value of such capabilities. And Captain John Hayes was promoted to Admiral, given command of Earth's entire defensive fleet. It was a responsibility he accepted with mixed feelings. He would rather have retired to spend time with his daughter and grandchildren. But humanity needed experienced leaders,